There is a huge thing to discuss.
What?
Really? Is it me? I'm
Is
huge.
it Brody watching the wrong movie?
It's me because I'm huge.
It's my dick.
Nice.
And bum,
Yeah.
bum, 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 bum. Bong. Delete. And welcome back. It's cinematographically speaking. The boys are back in town, and we've got a special episode for you today. That's right. Double feature, double entendre, double matinee. We're reviewing 2 movies today. Because, well, so we watched this week Funny Games, Mikhail Haneke, 1997. Brody, the maverick that he is, wanted to push the envelope, so he watched a different movie, Funny Games US 2007.
In my defense, I gotta say, I was, a bunch of movies fell off the back of a truck, and I was searching through them, and it said 1997 on it when I picked it up off the floor, and I didn't find out till after the movie was over that it was actually the wrong version. I on the title, the one that I received, it said 97 on it.
No, I think what actually happened is Troy literally said to watch the 2007 version, and then as soon as you said that you watched the 2007 version, started roasting you for not watching.
So let the
He
record reflect.
He went back and he
Troy
edited his
actually
Discord
gaslit.
messages.
Let the record
Discord
reflect that I said, just to be clear, in case there's any confusion, we're watching 97. And what I meant by that was, in case there's any confusion, was sort of a joke, because how could there possibly be confusion? Imagine someone says to watch movie X, and you find out where there's an original X that's in the
Hamlet.
original language of the director, and he remade it again later in a different language. You tell me what you would choose. So, anyway.
Well,
In
the
his
second one's gonna be better.
Luckily, the second one is...
Second draft.
The
His
second,
second draft.
one's
Like
better
it-
because
the
he
second one's
got a
definitely
second
worse.
chance.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you gotta,
Because it's campy in American,
So-
campy in English and American.
The second one is definitely worse, but notably different in a couple ways. And while we're talking about it, it's worth mentioning that Haneke, to avoid pitfalls, there's only been a couple notable films that have been remade by the same director. And he wanted to avoid some of the problems the other directors had, so when he came to the studio, the Hollywood studio, the deal was that they would recreate the film shot for shot, line for line, essentially the same, so as to avoid the studio from, trying to make changes to it. So luckily the films are substantially similar, but the 2007 one is definitely worse, and if Brody doesn't absolutely love it, that is definitely why.
Right.
So we could probably get to opening thoughts, where I'm going to drop my bombshell. Not quite, more like the first half of the bombshell. Opening thoughts, this movie rocks. This is not, earth-shattering cinema. It's not, it's not the holy cinema, but it is definitely very good, very interesting cinema. I find this film very persuasive, and the part of the first half of the bombshell is that I found the film so persuasive that I did not watch it again. I did not watch the movie this week. I started to watch it, and I really liked it the first time, and I've talked to, John and whoever about it quite a bit, and I found it persuasive. Anyway, so I started to watch it the second time, and unlike ever before, I was feeling so tortured. I felt so bad about what I was doing, and I felt like I couldn't bear to watch it again. Like, it got to the beginning with the eggs, and I felt like I don't know. I legitimately felt like it was my fault, and that like I should like actually do the base thing, do what Michael wants me to do, and not watch the movie. Little Michael. So
Mike.
I ended up just skimming. I ended up
Mike
skimming through the movie, watching notable scenes so I can refresh on details. And then I ended up watching the 2007 version after finding out that's what Brody watched. Again, I watched more than the first time with the 97, but I did quite a bit of skimming. So, anyway, I like this movie.
And you watched The Fifth Element too.
And I watched the last 30 minutes of The Fifth Element, which, what a movie.
Very cool.
Well, since the Discord order is
sorry
all
for going
weird,
out of order. I feel like I always go first.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah. Anyways, so I think I'll just go. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so movie was pretty good. I thought that it was the most this felt like the most philosophically focused of Haneke's films that we've seen. And so in that way, I liked it. Not in the sense that it's like a magnum opus, right? But more in the sense that it's the most well articulated, or like matter of fact, to the point. Look, this is what my movie is about, and this is what I have to say generally. And that was actually really enjoyable about it. I thought that the, suspense and tension was extreme, even though you get to a point where you're like kind of dissatisfied and bored with it, all intentional in a way. Like it's so suspenseful that it's just draining, and it kind of leaves you just tired of it or something like that. Oh my God. Sorry. Yeah, overall, a good movie. More to say. We'll get to it later.
Coming soon.
I really like this movie. Did
you watch it again?
I agree. Yeah, I watched it again. Most of it. I skipped the 15-minute take in the middle.
Oh, that's the best. That's like the best part of the movie.
I know, it's too much.
Wait, no, that might be where I was really bored. That might be what I was talking about when I got bored or something.
Oh,
wait, which
what?
part?
Like
which
so
part
drained
exactly?
that I was bored. But go on. Yeah.
that-
What part are you talking about specifically?
When
the part after the kid gets shot and then they leave, and then they're
Right.
just it's just that one take that's 10 minutes long or something.
Yeah, I was
insane.
super bored. I was super bored by that part too.
Oh man,
You guys weren't oh
I
man,
was shitting
the first time I
myself when
watched that,
it was so good.
No,
Yeah.
that's not when I was bored. I was bored before that. I was bored before the kid got shot, I think.
Okay.
And it was like a 10-minute chunk of boredom, but
okay.
overall
But
not boring.
either way, I skipped that because that was a bit much, and then I kind of just got to the main. And I'm gonna be honest, I was planning on watching it early this time, but I ended up starting it an hour and a half before the podcast, so I had to cut out 15 minutes somewhere out of the film.
Oh my God.
Dude, it was too much I got
It was too good for you.
it's too good. Yeah.
That's fine.
It says you didn't even watch it.
I watched that scene.
Oh, what? You
Troy's
skipped
a
to that
movie
scene?
scene.
Oh, I'm
No,
sure it's
no,
just
I
as
watched
emotionally
a lot of big
impactful
scenes,
after
obviously,
watching.
including that one. You're saying you're gonna cut
All right.
something. out.
Anyways, point being, yeah, the first time I watched this film in particular, it was very good. Yeah, I find the last frame of the film to be something that, I don't know, it has a certain effect that isn't in any other film I've seen, on me or whatever. I don't know, I find it very disturbing. Yeah, I don't know. Overall, I really like this movie, and I agree with it being Haneke's most focused, philosophically, the quote unquote point being very clear and very sharp, and then I think communicated and felt, at least for me, very effectively.
I really didn't like this film. Emphasis on the I, because clearly it's not a bad film by any means. But I'm a little bit tired of this Hanukkah nonsense, this Hanukkah shenanigans about modernity and the viewer and entertainment and things like this. And every time they broke the fourth wall, I rolled my eyes.
Oh, really?
So cringe, Brody.
I thought they did it well. You know, I
Yeah.
get that impulse, but okay, go on. Sorry.
And
Your
I
opinion,
am
thanks.
just like, I don't even really agree. Sorry, let me take that back a little bit. I'm not very interested in what it is that Hanukkah is trying to say. I suppose I'll just leave it at that. I got to be careful with my words here, especially when you're being critical of something. You have to be pretty careful.
Yeah, we're all
Critical of
friends
something
here.
you haven't seen.
Right.
Yeah.
Critical of something I haven't seen.
Yeah, this needs to be so emphasized.
kidding.
That when Brody's talking, he's talking about
Wait,
a different
does
movie.
it? Hold on a second. How much is this a joke that it needs to be like actually emphasized versus not a joke?
I imagine, yeah, Troy, never mind, Troy can speak because he's the
It
one who
is
watched it.
in various ways pretty different, especially when it comes to the protagonist nature of the woman, which in the original is not strong, and in the U.S. version is much stronger. I think in terms of just general quality and performance, the U.S. version is substantially not as good as the 97. And I would
Okay.
point Steven and John to just look at the last frame of the U.S. version compared to
Yeah,
the
that's
last
what
frame of the 97
I was
version.
going to talk about that.
And there is a world of difference in quality, emotion, like just the whole, the vibe is like the culpability and involvement of the audience is a lot stronger in the 97 than in the US, in my opinion.
Okay, but in fairness to me, it is more of the subject. Like, because I didn't feel like, wow, these performances aren't great or anything like this. It's like, the fourth wall breaks and the blood on the television. I was just like, oh God, all right, like I get it. Like, thanks, Hanukkah.
I think one quality which like is much more emotionally felt than and is like differs entirely is the coldness idea in terms of how it looks. And I think that plays the most significant role early on when you're becoming invested in them, and that when it's this warm German version, it feels way more evil. It feels way more intense, I would imagine, than just this cold, almost more typically Hanukkah-like situation. If you compare it to the Seventh Continent,
Yeah.
I'm just compare Seventh Continent to the U.S. version. That color scheme and the emotions that it evokes are kind of similar, versus the warmth, and it's radically different than the warmth you get in the German version.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah, I mean, in the-
huge difference there. It's way more glaciation looking, the U.S. version, which I think
Yeah.
brings attention to the glaciation stuff. Because I would contend against Brody that this film has very little to do with, not very little to do, but a lot less to do with the glaciation stuff than other things, and I think it's much more clear in the 97. Like I don't think this bourgeois modern family, something enters their life. I mean, anyway, I'm agreeing with Steven.
I think that the point of the difference between the last frames, I don't know, is pretty telling, because the US one is so cold and detached, and he's so unhuman looking. Like, he doesn't look cruel. He looks, I don't know, I'm looking at it right now. He looks like, I don't know, he just looks empty. Whereas in the original version, 1997, he looks like he's got something up his sleeve. Like he looks like harder to figure out or something like that. Like he's not just creepy in like some kind of more boring, empty way.
Yeah,
and like I imagine if that is reflective at all of like how the characters act throughout the film, because I didn't watch the US version, then that I think that's huge, is like the cruelty factor in the 1997 version is huge because of their playfulness or like very lighthearted unemptiness or something.
Yeah, a word that was coming through the like that I was feeling the whole anytime the two boys, it's Todd and Tom, or no, Todd and
Fatty.
what are the two names?
And Tubby.
Tubby.
He's
Well, no,
Tubby in
Tubby's
US,
name.
he's Fatty.
I'm just
No,
kidding.
Oh, no, he
Tubby's
is Tubby
name is
in the
what,
US,
though?
he's Fatty in the German.
Exposed.
No,
No,
what's
they
his
call
real
him
name,
Tubby.
though?
He calls him
Tubby?
Tubby in the German one too. He calls him Fatty,
Yeah,
Tubby.
he
He calls
does.
him all
He
kinds
does.
of things.
But he also has a real name. What's his name?
Paul and someone
Paul?
else. Maybe
I
it
thought
is
Tom was a name, but
Yeah, I think it's
but
Paul
yeah.
and
You keep
Tom.
going.
Paul and Tom maybe. But anyways, the smarter conniving one, the lanky one, right?
Yeah, Paul.
Paul. First off, those two characters felt Shakespearean slash
Peter and
like
Paul.
mythical. Peter and Paul. They felt mythical, they felt Greek, and they also felt Shakespearean. I was almost thinking like a demon. Like you can imagine Shakespeare writing a character that has this sort of, and it also has to do with how they're dressed in this white and this like the short shorts because he has eczema or whatever. So it's so cruel and weird and like it just seems I don't know, silly, the silliness of the cruelty, and all these fourth wall breaks. This whole movie felt like a play, and it felt like, I don't know, it felt like a significant contribution to storytelling actually. And I thought that the two characters there, Paul and Peter, felt like imps and were funny and silly and cruel in the way that I've only ever seen in like literature. I've rarely seen a character, and I think that the German version, the German, what's his name, Paul, the main one or whatever, the lanky one, his face and how he looks carries that character really far. Like, it seems really difficult to imagine a different physiognomy for that type of person because it works so well. So maybe that's also a problem with the American one. I don't know.
I mean, I think both of their faces are like extremely, like they just fit exactly everything that they're like embodying and saying and everything. Yeah. Like it's hard to imagine them being anything but the character.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully this doesn't seem like just shitting on Brody. It's mostly just an unfortunate thing.
I actually did download the 97 version. On the file on my computer says 97 on it. Funny games.
Did you just admit to committing a crime?
No,
I said he downloaded it.
I said that a truck was coming.
Oh, that's right.
And a bunch of movies fell out.
You just said download colloquially.
Wait, but I don't understand.
Colloquially.
I'm interested. So wait, so something.
You got the 97 version and it was actually the 07 version? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Why didn't you
terrible.
watch it on Criterion? It was
because it doesn't work on my computer. We've been through this before.
That's right. You have like a Raspberry Pi computer.
That's right.
You watch it on an 8-bit screen.
I'm on a Chromebook.
Yeah, I'm on a Chromebook. Yeah, so this is just all to say it's very unfortunate. And I want to add, having seen both, the performance of the Peter and Paul is so much worse. Like
in the American?
Yeah, in the American version. Like, you almost just have to look at the actor who plays Paul to know that something's up. But
yeah.
The plot points, everything is the same, but I think that the general quality is low, and insofar as that, it's interestingly different in some ways, but also all this is to really say, I guess, is like maybe you would have felt the film more had the performances been better.
I think that's
and
reasonable.
I think
that's reasonable to say. Although the problems that I'm having with it is reflected in every Hanukkah film we've watched since Piano Teacher. I've like been sort of saying like the sort of same things every time I watch like a Hanukkah film. You know what I mean?
71 Fragments?
Yes, I said something similar.
I'm surprised because I think
Whoa.
Hanukkah, there's like a fairly clear development from glaciation period to 71 Fragments and 71 Chronicles to then Piano Teacher and Amor.
Well, Piano Teacher is the only one I didn't express any of these things.
I'm just saying I don't see this thing that you're...
Yeah, I thought 71 Fragments doesn't really have any of the same... It's not subject to the same criticisms as you make of this.
Well, I think
it's Code Unknown. Code Unknown I'm talking about. Code Unknown is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
71 Fragments is much more of the earlier type.
Right, I was gonna say Code Unknown and Seventh Continent are the things that, like, I would say are mostly reflected and are gonna mirror, like, what I didn't like about it.
Surprising. Wait. Just to be clear, Code Unknown is where the deaf kids are doing their thing.
71 Fragments.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, I would have thought. I mean, 71
you
Fragments.
You think that one seems so unrelated? It seems so unrelated to Seventh Continent and this.
Largely, but because there is a focus on modernity, then like that is the main problem that I have with it. And it's not necessarily a problem. It's just that I'm really tired of it and not captivated by this topic.
I don't think
I felt like sorry.
I just don't even think that this. I think this film stands out like almost on its own in Hanukkah's filmography as distinct and unique. Like I disagree. I don't even. I think it is about something more broad than just modernity.
Okay, well,
but
no. Jump into that then.
I don't think it's just more. You say more broad. Maybe it's more broad. Maybe it's more particular.
Well, it's more particular to something that is larger than just modernity.
But I do think that to connect it to modernity is relatively fruitless and not what Hanukkah even intends and not what I even see. Like I don't see modernity as being on display here at all. I mean, of course, when we talk about modernity, I mean, you can connect that to basically any film that's made, in modernity, right?
Yeah, maybe modernity just falls short as a description. Like it's about very specific things that may or may not be, characteristic of modernity.
Correct.
But it's about particular things and not necessarily about the fact that we struggle.
I agree with that, and and things like entertainment and things like this, which is echoed in 71 Fragments. But jump into what is this movie about, Troy?
Well, I don't know. Okay, well, I'm sure it's about a lot of things, and I'm sure it's about things that you think it's about, and it's about things that I think it's about. But hold
on. I don't want to make any
No.
I don't want to say I know what this is about.
No.
Obviously, there's gonna be tons of things that are lost.
I'm saying I think it's about a lot of things, and there's a subset that support this Hanukkah modernity entertainment, and there's things that maybe won't. I'm just saying it's not like I think that there's nothing about the film that supports your take. I'm just saying. Okay. Anyway, the primary thing to me, I think that what I find the most powerful is the degree to which the medium is used in various ways to persuade one that maybe not persuade one of something in extreme particular, but at minimum to take seriously the distinction or lack thereof between fiction and reality. I think that's my primary interest, and what I find the most powerful is that it's so strongly felt. It uses the medium in various ways and brings attention obviously to the audience in the most direct way, and I think I like Steven sort of said, get the impulse to see fourth wall breaking as cringe just because 99% of the time you see a fourth wall break, it's cringe. but I think it's a bit different here. But anyway, yeah, I think the thing about fiction as reality and taking a look at the distinction or lack thereof is like the most powerful thing about this film.
Yeah, I think the play-like nature, like the theater play-like nature, like when they break the fourth wall, I'm saying Shakespearean because it feels like a chorus talking to you or something like that.
Yeah.
So it does not feel inappropriate. It feels very appropriate to me. And that's one reason I also don't think it's about modernity almost at all. Like this one in particular. Other Hanukkah stuff, sure. But this one in particular seems much more about art in general and entertainment in general, and extending and like the differences between, fiction and reality or whatever, and how, like, what distance we want between them and ourselves and our lives. But the reason I say it's not modernity is it's like this issue has been around forever, and if we take ourselves to think like we understand Hanukkah's view on art or something like that, which I don't think we do, and here's why I don't think we do, like, it would mean that he would be saying that, like, fantasy from the 1200s is fake reality and it's bad art or something like that, and it's like similar to Spielberg using music or something like that. Like, I don't think the comments he's making are not about the modern viewer. They are about a more timeless subject that Troy just mentioned, that is fiction and reality and the distance between us or something like that, and what we want or something.
Not to commit first-degree felony cringe, but I agree with this, and that's not the cringe part. But like, the more I read, like, I have this Hanukkah book, right? And like, the more of these essays I read and all the stuff, like, I am more and more convinced that whatever Hanukkah thinks, which I don't think is like super relevant in general, right? Like, you look at the film, but like, I don't understand. Like, I don't know what he thinks. If that, like, it's more, I think it is more of a timeless nature. Like, all the references and like clear discussion, and like, he makes explicit references to like various like philosophers and thinkers and stuff like this. A lot of like post World War II stuff. Anyway.
Is that the cringe part?
I mean,
No,
I don't
the
know.
cringe
What makes
part
it-
is
what-
the cringe part is me saying, I have this
You read
this
it.
book, I read
Yeah.
these essays, and I'm convinced that he is the philosopher filmmaker.
Yeah.
That's the cringe.
I think that
like,
when
the
it comes to
real one.
Tarkovsky, I haven't watched many Tarkovsky movies, but so I'll watch more in the future. But I've so far never really been captivated by any of his writing. When Criterion posts those blurbs, those blurbs really don't hit for me. Movies and Stalker didn't really hit for me too much. I'm definitely going to explore more, but Tarkovsky's the quintessential like philosopher filmmaker, right? He's like kind of an icon in that realm, right?
Kind of. I think it's different in that like Tarkovsky is like super romantic. Hold on. Steven's house just blew up. Is he alive? No, we've lost Steven. Anyway, to
Oh,
respond
no,
to Steven,
Steven
but not for
died.
Steven.
Wait, hold on. His camera's on. His house is literally flooding.
Oh my
I'm
God.
looking at water going through. Oh my
It's coming
God.
in
there
so
goes his
fast.
dog. There goes his dog. He just went out the window in a torrent.
In a torrent. Wait, is this
Wait,
the
his
end?
ceiling's collapsing.
This is the end.
I think Tarkovsky is much more of like romantic, and is sort of like making these like I don't know that he's like so much thought of as like a philosopher filmmaker as much as he's thought of like as a super contemplative, and like his thinking is more like, I don't know, like I feel like humanistic in orientation and like grand, like kind of like a Dostoevskian type thing. Whereas
Which
like,
makes sense because he's Russian,
Yeah, but like
His
I think
work
he
is
very much has like
Russian.
Yeah, like
Yeah, but
Dostoevsky
people-
is
but
thought of
people-
as like, right, like the philosopher, the Russian philosopher writer, but it's not really. But he's not like. There's
you
a very
literally just made my point.
yes.
You literally just made my
no.
point.
But I think
Okay,
but I
yeah.
think there's a huge difference between a philosopher like Socrates and a philosopher like Hegel. or a philosopher like, someone more,
Yeah.
who's that guy? Who's that political guy everyone talks about? The linguist.
Marx.
Chomsky.
Oh,
Chomsky.
Chomsky.
You know what I mean? Like these are like they have like totally different styles and scopes and like tendencies.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just saying I think of Hanukkah more of the modern technical type than of like a sort of classic, like a classic philosopher whose scope is enormous and is all like human centric.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
No, I think that's yeah.
But-
Especially in their sorry.
But there was a comment that Troy made. You made earlier on. You were talking about how he's the philosopher filmmaker or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my only point with anything I was saying was that Tarkovsky's so far have not hit.
Mm-hmm.
Like emotionally they haven't hit for me. And Hanukkah has hit a couple times, He's missed a few, but he's definitely hit a couple too.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah, I don't know. I suppose that was the only comment I was making and likening the two, comparing the two.
Hanukkah fucking gets it, dude. He gets emotion. He gets film.
And, I mean, it makes sense that he's like influenced by these post World War II philosophers, if what you're saying is true. Considering, what?
Huh?
All right, never mind.
No, go on. Sorry, I'm being mean.
Nope.
I'm being
Nope.
mean.
Nope, you ruined it.
What?
That is it for me.
Go
What
ahead.
just
Go
happened?
ahead.
Nope. Can't make me.
Please, come on. I'm sorry.
Nope.
What about this film made you think the word modernity, Brody?
What made me think the word modernity, mostly is the use of television and the type of entertainment, and also the way that the two villains, I guess, in quotations, behaved, where they're obsessed with politeness and image and orderliness and things like this, which I understand could probably just be broadened into more of, say, I don't know, like society in general or something like this, rather than a modern society. But it was primarily the use of television, I think, that struck me as the most modern. Because similar in 71 Fragments, where he was continuously using images of or scenes of the news, and is sort of depicting, I hate to make analysis because I'm always wrong, but something about like the jadedness and how the violence and entertainment is all sort of lost on us, but there's like this unification of the two between what's actually going on and entertainment. And in the sense where, they were showing the race while all the horrific things were happening in the living room, that was mirrored to me in a way that isn't exactly, maybe this is the case for fiction and, the Shakespearean era or something like this, but it just doesn't seem the same to me. Not exactly.
Yeah, in the American version, NASCAR is on, and in the European, or in the 97, it's F1. Which I think is notable, and I think it's unironically notable.
F1 better? Question mark.
Well, it's just different. NASCAR is much more American, not just in popularity, but form. Like, there's a lot more. Like, there's a couple things like that where it's like the eggs in the 97. The eggs come out of the basket and are wrapped in newspaper, and in the U.S., the eggs go into a carton. Like she gives him a carton, and there's this kind of like class.
In the European version, they don't put the eggs in the fridge, right? She brings
they
them
come
out of the cupboard or something.
No, they come out of the fridge, but there's like a class difference. There's a difference in like the way, like a European class sense versus like the American. Like we're in Europe, class is more visible, or at least to people. Like people think about it a bit more, and like in the egg scene, where in the egg scene in the 97, she, the woman is sort of like pestered by someone of a lower status, and like she basically gets broken. Whereas in the U.S. version, it's more like she is polite out of a sense, like an American sense of like, I don't know, American, whatever.
Yeah, no, that makes
the TV,
sense.
No,
And
I think
that does seem significant, really significant in the sense that, yeah, I would agree with that.
I think you're right about the TV insofar as like, I mean, there's a TV and the TV is modern. I think like I think there's a more, timeless way to look at it, but I don't think it'd be wrong to see it as like a thing of modernity. Although I'm surprised, like, I don't know, the TV, you only see it really once. I mean, you have the race going on in that intense scene.
Well,
and obviously it's super heavy-handed when you see the TV and it's got blood all over it.
Yeah, and, at least in the American version, I think there is something about, like, you heard the TV in the background. It says, oh, isn't this entertainment? Isn't this exciting? And it's referring to the race, but also, they're saying eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and who's going to fucking bite the bullet,
Wait, is that present in the German version?
I don't recall anything like that. I don't think so.
Yeah,
but
I don't know what you're talking about. So it must be exclusive to the American, unless I'm misunderstanding.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of things like that, like going on the TV. And then, like, you see, like, when he's in the kitchen and they're killing everybody, and then so he's just in the kitchen just, like, making food while the TV is on. And it's not just the television that is going on with, like, the race, which is obviously extremely deadly. Like, literal lives are at stake here, especially back then. Actually, I don't know when races got safe, but that's just my assumption. And, like, people are actually dying. And so, that's something that feels sort of modern to me, where someone is just in the kitchen cooking while they're in the back is something that is ridiculously insane is going on, but is sort of lost on the modern person more so than maybe that seems to be a reflection on entertainment in a modern sense, more so than entertainment in a larger, fuller scope of all throughout time.
I don't know. You imagine someone's watching a play in Greece about a war and enjoying it or whatever, like, but knowing like full well, like they have this heyday of like art and things like that and glorification of things like that, but like in the background there's like constant conquest and like slavery and thing like that in the whole area and everyone's vying for power. I don't know, the whole idea that like people enjoy entertainment amidst a background of like human problem and suffering and like intensity and intense visceral experience, that seems like a more timeless issue of like, when should one indulge in art? Is it fair to indulge in art given that there's these real human problems and reality is so insane? And I remember that subject coming up a lot in a book I read, which was by Nine Chile by Bolaño, the short book, where he questions whether it's fair to teach philosophy, Plato. He's like, a teacher's like, should I be teaching Plato when like our country's in the middle of a civil war? Because he's like, there's a civil war and he's teaching Plato and it's just absolutely worthless subject, that he thinks like, and he feels really guilty about teaching it. And so I was thinking about that book relative to the movie, and I was thinking how both, I don't know, seem like pertinent to a modern person, of course. And the fact that it's a television, I don't know, the television is just our tech now. It's just the modern person's tech. But is that the real subject at the core of it all? Or is this just the like medium by which the subject gets explored nowadays versus before? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think this is true. I think the same sort of thing applies to like the idea of like it's lost on the viewer, the nature of the violence. Like there's obviously a focus on violence and something like this, but I think that's also times. But I think this like needs to go, in my mind, further to like the disambiguation between fiction and reality. Is that even the right phrase?
Okay.
Disambiguation?
Should I look
I don't know.
up?
Sounds cool.
It sounds really good. something about it. Anyway, like that the violence of this film is real. Like I think, um, like I think this is the most persuasive thing in terms of trying to convince someone. I'm already convinced. All right, I'm on the film train. But a person who's like, it's just a movie, type of person, like the like where like the non-reality of it is assumed and fixed. And I think this is like the most persuasive thing against that.
I think so. I have 2 points. One, I think sometimes it is just a movie, and that's can be very entertaining, and so I don't agree with that being a bad thing in itself. That idea. I want to say the way in which this violence is real is in the extreme discomfort you feel, right? And then the constant subversion of like tropes, right? Or like, they're not going to get away. They're not going to whatever, and the brutality of actually killing the kid. There's lots of real things insofar as they make you feel pretty detached and disgusted with what's going on. But, the violence in like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is enjoyed thoroughly for totally different reasons, but it's like the same. You might call it like, the evil twin of it, or like the twin of it. That is just a movie. The violence in there is not real, I don't think, and that makes it like a fun playground. I don't see this like you're saying in all film violence is real. I don't really understand what that claim is, other than its emotions seem to be more congruous with what reality would be, or something like that. And that's only sometimes. That's not in everything.
Well, I would say it's in everything, but I guess it's more not about like a binary of real, not real, but like levels of legitimate reality. So like, you see Texas Chainsaw Massacre or like Avengers, right? And you're not all torn up that like some skyscraper just got destroyed and oh my gosh, there must be thousands of families, think of all the kids, without their father,
Right.
Whatever, right? And I think it's just because like it lacks like a sufficient level of reality or something like this, or that it's too disconnected from like the human experience, something for it to be like, it might even be like a relatability thing and not a reality thing. But yeah, like looking at this film, say, I think I take your point, and I think it probably has to do with quality in some sense, or some type of gradation of reality. But I think you're right that the essential thing is the way it affects the viewer, and like reveling in these extreme emotions of like terror, pain, and violence. I don't know. I just think like it's hard. I don't have it totally clear, but I'll just say that I did not expect in any sense to have a hard time watching it the second time. Like I kind of got the ideas and the stuff, the first time, and I was like, yeah, it's cool. We talked about it, but I had no expectation that I would have such a hard time watching it again. And like only on my second viewing, or when I had my second view, did I experience my extreme discomfort and like legitimate guilt. Like I felt like I was actually doing something wrong. Like it wasn't just, playing a file, right? Like I felt like I was actually participating in some wrongdoing.
That's why I find the last frame so horrifying, is because I've been made to feel complicit, and it feels like I don't know, it's one of the only times where I've seen like the fourth wall broken, where I really feel like it broke, like I really feel like that guy is fucking looking at me through the screen, and like, yeah, I don't know, and you feel, I don't know, there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like he's somewhere like in between the movie and like you, in some kind of weird way. But yeah, sorry, Steven, you can respond to what Troy said.
I mean, I agree that this movie made me feel emotions that were much more like accurate or plausible or something like that. I don't really share the like shame in watching it again or like something like that. I would watch it again. It'd be kind of boring, I think, if I watched it again. I don't think I'd feel ashamed though. But yeah, I still don't really get this point about all the violence like this bigger claim that was made about violence in film is real. Like, it seems like sometimes it can be extremely well done and plausible and feel real in those ways, but it almost always isn't. And that's just like a difference of film. I don't get the yeah. I don't know if you want to just argue for it a little bit more or not. For the more general claim.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think it's just about like degree or almost like when you see some like, whatever little action film that's like, it's just different, right? And it doesn't carry with it this like incredible weight of violence the way, it does in reality. But I think maybe something along the lines of like it's a projection of reality, and like film itself film or fiction, whatever, contains the possibility of like actually not just like becoming non-projection, I guess. Or like if you imagine a projection, right, you're not like Plato's cave or something, like you're not looking at the thing itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so like I think people think of film as predominantly this projection of like, right, we're gonna, a projection of reality, but has no material linkage to reality itself. And I think, in my mind, or in my experience, part of what this film is very persuasive is the fact that film or fiction, whatever, I'm gonna keep saying film, is capable of like creating legitimate reality. Like, does this make sense?
I don't know, because it seems like we're still just watching like a stylized reality that, whether it might be more congruous with like what we imagine to be our actual experience of violence or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the art itself is still like a stylized, metaphysical account of, its creator's psyche. We're still not getting the thing itself, and that's why we're interfacing through art.
Yeah, but what would the thing itself be? Because I'm obviously
it'd literally be violence.
Yeah, I'm obviously not literally saying that like, these are real people.
Well, we
right?
say reality. I don't know. Yeah. I don't really know what you're saying.
I'm saying something along the lines of like perceived reality, or like lived reality, or some kind of like the reality of characters. Right? Like you think of whatever, the best character, the best fleshed out, whatever, right? Like there is something legitimately real about this person, especially as it strikes the viewer. Like that's like the main relationship is like reality in the eyes of the viewer, and the way that this like stimulus, this object, this thing, idea, whatever, is like interacting with you. And like obviously you'd never say like, no, wait, this character is actually real, right? Like no. But
well, I don't just mean materially real.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't even seem like I don't really get what we mean by the term real. What is it introduced that's useful here? I don't really get it.
Define real.
Real.
Like what?
Okay,
what is? Because it's obviously obviously film and art can be, it can make you experience emotions which feel intense.
Mm-hmm.
And I could just go on, someone could have a great ekphrasis on all the ways in which art is good and makes you feel a certain way and how it is about life,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm with it and I agree and share those things.
Mm-hmm.
But like that doesn't mean it's real. It just means that it's incredibly powerful and and good. Like
Yeah.
what's
So,
the
yeah,
useful
something- yeah, I
quality of
suppose-
calling it real?
I suppose,
You know?
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
because I
yeah.
know you're not saying okay.
I suppose like it would be to say something like, and maybe this isn't in disagreement with what you're saying, but like as materially relevant, like, or maybe not materially, like as relevant to you as any other physically real object is. Like a character is as relevant to you as it is any other actual person.
Okay.
Right? Like the way that that thing will interact with your life, your mind, your attitudes, your whatever is not any less privileged in its capabilities or degree to interface with you than its material counterpart. Okay, interface, obviously you're not going to you know.
Right. I no, I liked where that was going, but I think the fundamental difference is like when you're talking about another person, another subject, like they're going to change over time. And it's not just your interpretation of them that will change, but the subjectivity behind them will all, like shift over time as well. Whereas the film, of course, you're going to watch it and you can change and have different interpretations as you watch the film multiple times. There is no reciprocal change. The art itself is not going to change. What's being presented is the same, and it's all on your end of interpretation. Whereas in reality, the other subject, the other person who's real is, changing on their own as well. And I think that like matters a lot for like, the different, because, I'm tempted to say, you might be interacting with a person the same way you interact with art, in the sense that you interact with only an image of a person and you only interact with images through art. But these images are obviously powerful or whatever. That's one side of me wants to say that. But then the other side of me says, no, there's a difference between the person in my life as an image, because fundamentally there is something underneath it changing, a subjectivity that though I never interact with directly, I only get their facial cues, the language and things like that. So I'm interacting with only an image. Underneath that image is a subjectivity, Yeah,
but I think
or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's obviously true. I think that I don't know, it kind of strikes me as like a sort of falling under the category of like, of course, material reality like has advantages or has like is like materially different in a sense, right? Like the film
has problems too.
The film character is static insofar as they're not literally alive and going to change and respond to you, etc. Right. Like maybe but I think that's a fair point in terms of like maybe character, but like I might say like, seeing, suppose all the groundwork has been done in terms of like this extremely high level, well done fleshing out of characters and the environment, etc. Right. And, you see a character harm another character, that is not substantially different from seeing it in real life. It's not different from seeing it in real life in any relevant sense, assuming you don't like know these people and then they fall into the category that you're talking about. Like the images, things like this, which goes against some
if it's
things,
done a certain way.
Yes.
If it's done a certain way.
If it's done well.
If it's done well.
Let's suppose,
if it's done in a way such
it's possible.
Wait, you need to stop. Just stop saying well. Stop saying well.
Stop saying well.
Just say if it's done in a way such that it does this. Because
it is possible to do this.
Right.
That's the main point. That the limits of film in terms of like its relevance to your life and its reality quotes.
Yeah.
Is like the limit does not fall short of literal material reality. Yeah. With some exceptions, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. But then we're still just talking
obviously.
about... But now we're just... it seems like all we've said is that movies can emotionally affect you in an intimate way that is similar to how, interacting with someone in real life could.
Yeah, I think the further... I don't know if we want to still, like, keep hashing out exactly what we mean by this, but I think that the point that Haneka's making is that it being significant in, or as quote unquote as real or something like this, that the point being is that it becomes like ethically like relevant what you put in a film, and and like the way in which you show something and the way in which an audience watches it and their awareness, blah 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 blah. Troy, why? You
Yeah,
disagree
no, yeah.
to the way I
I
worded
thought
it,
you were
or-
gonna. No, I think that's totally right. I had an exact paraphrase, and I thought you were saying exactly it, and then you went into a different direction a little bit.
And so you're
but
like,
basically the same.
ooh, actually
But yeah.
wrong.
Well, no, yeah. Like in brief summary, my take is that right. Obviously, the film is meant to make the viewer complicit and feel guilty, but not only it's not just making you feel guilty, you actually are guilty of something. Like, and this is what John is saying. Like, what is in film, what you watch, things like this, are like ethically relevant. Like it's not.
I'm gonna ask a.
It's not just a
I'm gonna
movie.
ask a-
You know, you can't like you.
I'm gonna ask a brain.
Wait, hold on. I just want to clear
Okay.
one more statement because what Steven is saying is like all I. It seems like all we're saying is that films can make you feel very strongly, feel certain things, and I think the point of this film is that it can make you. A film can make you feel guilty, and in my mind, persuade you that you literally are guilty of something. Like it's
So,
not just a film making
my-
you feel a certain way. Like something
my
real.
question is-
There's a real interaction.
What are you guilty of?
You are complicit in the violence that takes place in the film. I told John when I started watching the movie and then ended up deciding like I can't do this, like this is wrong. I was like, I saved a family of 3 today. What did you do?
I don't know.
This-
This does still just seem like it's making you feel guilty, not transcending that and making you actually guilty and complicit. Because it's still laudable to evoke that emotion so powerfully to make you feel guilty and complicit. But I don't think it transcends that because when I was playing this video game where like there were some wolves in the forest. And I was with my brother and his girlfriend, not to dox them, but like there was this wolf that like you had to either like kill or like somehow run away from in order to get into this building. Okay, it was like a really generic video game, and I just walked up and shot the dog. I was like, like I'm just trying to progress, and I did that. My brother's girlfriend actually like screamed. She actually was like, ah! Was super upset with the fact that I did that. Not like angry with me, but like it genuinely, in her mind, she was complicit in the murder of a dog, And this is some, mediocre video game or something like that, Really low quality, probably less than mediocre. And yet, she had this experience. And I would say that her experience is as genuine and profound as some sort of complicit thing you might have from a well-made piece of art. That is the measure of how real it is simply like how affected you were or something like that. And I'm not saying the quality of the film is unimportant, but I'm saying that the measure of how real it is how affected you were, And so you might say a good quality film does this more likely or does it better or does it a certain type of way. Something like that. But her experience was real in that sense, which sounds like that's in line with your thinking,
Yeah, I don't love the example, but I get the point, and I think it's right.
Why not?
No. I think it's right.
Okay.
I think the film does a substantially good job at not just making you feel guilty, but begging the question, are you legitimately guilty? And like, I don't know, I think it'll be an issue of gradation and depends on all these various things, right? I don't think I like watch, obviously you don't like play the video game and actually suspect you're guilty of something.
Right, but she does. She literally, like, it hurts her that way. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just like an alarming thing, like, if she ever played, I think there was an occasion where she's playing it again and she did everything she could not to kill the dog, And like, it was like, I do want to, and I know you want to respond, sorry. I do just want to say that I think the next stage of the conversation, which I don't really have much of an opinion on, but I think is ripe, is this actual guilty. So like the thing John brought up with the ethicality of film, I think that is a pretty deep topic. Deep as in there's a lot we could fish out of that. I don't know. That sounds like the real meat of the conversation, and more of what a Hanukkah message might be, or like a directorial message might be.
Yeah, I mean that's why I brought it up, because I saw it as being like we're trying to like weed out the exact why the film is quote unquote real or whatever significant, when like the discussion being had with like the film, I mean it kind of just assumes its own reality or something like that, and then tries to make you like feel it. But then what's significant, or like what Hanukkah does that's different in this film, is then discusses that the what's wrong or right with the manipulation of those very real feelings or whatever that a audience member might be having, right?
I mean, I definitely think that sounds like something that's going on. I don't have much of a take on it though.
I'll wrap up myself, but
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I think John's point is totally right, but it's twofold, and I think one is much easier to see than the other. Like, I think my point is more of the ethical relevance of the viewer, and I think the ethical relevance of the creator is a little easier to see. But
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, because
the only thing about this example, Stephen, is that the audience has choice in your example, which I think is like super relevant. Whereas the viewer is
I mean, the viewer has choice to watch the movie.
Yeah, that's what I was
the viewer has choice
to
watch the movie. That's right, but
Yeah.
possibly relevant.
Well, I mean, isn't that, you said you're like, oh, I saved a family of 4.
Yeah,
It's like your choice.
Yeah, I did save a family of 4. All right, no, I think that's right.
Family of 3. There's not 4 of them.
Family of 3.
And then I just want to point out super quickly.
Infinite families. 2 families, maybe 3.
Never mind, I won't. Someone go on.
But you were saying the twofold, and I think the distinction was good. You're right. The distinction between the ethics from the director's side, the creator's side, and then the ethics on the viewer's side, because it's a different set of problems or a different set of ethical considerations. The director's side seems like the much more traditional approach, or like much more traditional argument, like, and the one that's been had many times, like, should I be making this? Should this ever enter the public sphere? Should this be made?
Yeah.
Why am I making this? That's a classic art, like classic only in this, but I mean like an old, long-standing argument.
Yeah.
The other argument about the viewership, the voyeur, right? That one I don't have much of a take on, but it sounds like you might have an idea of what Hanukkah means to say, or not just what Hanukkah means to say, but like, do you have any takes on that? I don't know. The viewer.
Well, I think this is, I mean, even though we mention it every time we talk about Hanukkah, what Hanukkah, and that we shouldn't talk about it, is the Hanukkah, I mean, the reason why he made a second version of the film is because he wanted audiences in the U.S. to see it, and his kind of expressed point for doing so is something like making a U.S. audience like aware of what they're watching, and hyper aware of what they're watching, so that they're not just able to watch violence on the screen and to remain separated from it, that they have to become emotionally involved in it, and to make a film that does this, that like forces them to be involved and aware of their viewership, as opposed to it just kind of happening and they keep like some kind of cold distance from it or something.
So I have a, sorry, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. But yeah, I mean the basic thing, I think that, I mean, it goes back to, we talked about this more in Piano Teacher, and about like raping the audience into autonomy.
Yeah.
And this is like the ultimate version of that, where it's like the most meta, most clear, most like focused version of him trying to rape the audience into autonomy.
Yeah, and that's just a short point. That's a phrase that he literally says, right? But not just about Piano Teacher, but like as one hallmark of his general mission.
Yeah.
So Troy brought up the Avengers and about how like they'll burst through a skyscraper and it'll come tumbling down. So, what is either everyone's opinion slash if you could manage what you would think that Haneka's opinion is with like Jackie Chan goes and he kills like 10 bad guys on a single rope string or swing or something like this. What is the problem with that from
I mean, I don't think it's
both the viewer's perspective, both from the viewers and the director? Like, are they not? Is it a problem that they're not computing that each of these bad guys has a family, or should the director be focusing more on the reality of each of these bad guys' lives or something like this?
I don't know if it's necessarily like as far as like Haneka's take on like big action flicks or something where like lots of people are dying at a time. I mean, he probably has other views, but as related to this particular topic of like the audience being aware of it or something, aware of like the level of violence, I think it's very relevant what Steven was saying earlier, the like how well the characters are developed, how serious the work takes itself, might be a good way of saying it, because this is like what like the thriller genre like functions on, is like your, as an audience member, your enjoyment comes from the stakes of violence, and as an audience member, you're not going to believe that unless you like, that's not going to be entertaining for you unless you have a stake in what's going on, like a character, something that's going to happen, versus like in like an Avengers film, like you do have a stake in like the world being saved, but it's not the same thing as like in the, I don't think it's the same thing. It's not the same kind of intimate human investment and understanding of the potential for violence that you have when watching another thriller or watching this film. Yeah, and that's like what the gradation, the scale that Troy was kind of talking about, that somewhere there's something about the intimacy and the audience's awareness of the potential for violence and what that violence is and what it means to them or something like that.
Yeah, and I think it's more clear, like look at it from like a filmmaker's perspective and say, right, because the people in the building in Avengers or whatever have no impact on the audience, and they're not meant to, right? They like basically don't even exist in the film, right? It never registers. And I don't think that's the problem. I think like an example that Hanukkah has talked about is like Schindler's List, where you have the shower scene. Full disclosure, I haven't seen this movie. But you have the shower scene.
Neither have I.
Where, right, the humanity of these people is attempted to be fleshed out, and the seriousness is attempted to be fleshed out, right? Like there's a solid attempt to really make this intimate and relevant to the audience, and all of this is used to create a moment of suspense when they go into the shower and the people inside don't know if they're actually going to get a shower or if they're getting gassed. And so there's this moment of suspense and excitement and, oh no, what's going to happen, you know? And then it's whatever, it's a real shower in the movie. But I think it's about like not just what technically takes place in the film, like say Avengers, well technically, you know, thousands of people just died and like we didn't happen, but about like what is intentionally being used on the viewer to create what, right? Like, so, are we trying to get closer to the real nature of this concentration camp inhabitant, or is all of this just to create this moment of excitement? Yeah. Are they going to get gassed? And I know Hanukkah, I don't know the exact language he used, but he basically said like, this is gross. Like this is gross. This is wrong. This is like cheap.
Using the
Holocaust.
The Holocaust.
Yeah, basically using the Holocaust as a plot device to create excitement and suspense.
Yeah, I mean, if I can use another example, just really
like
quick.
Cheap thrills.
Well, this is another example, just because I feel like it's less loaded in a lot of ways. So I recently went and saw A Quiet Place 2, which I didn't think was very good, but the whole thing is intense suspense thriller. And there's a moment in the film where there's like a big monster outside and they're stuck in this thing that has no oxygen, but they have an oxygen tank. And it's just this little kid and a baby. and the movie leverages the possibility of the baby suffocating in order to create suspense. And the characters all suck. Like, the characters are not very interesting. They're not really well fleshed out. They're pretty flat and dry. And it's all the family bonding things that like are supposed to get you invested are very cheap. And then it gives you like this super high potential for violence using like a crying baby who's like gonna lose oxygen, and this like kid is like taking the oxygen away from the baby to like give it to himself, and then like kind of giving some to the baby. And like, I don't know, I think that, so it's not so much, it's not so much whether it's like, oh, we're going to use the Holocaust to create suspense. It's more that we're going to use the potential for violence in a way that is only meant to get you invested in the film and has no other consequences besides that, which in funny games, that is all the violence. All the violence has nothing. There is no plot that is moving forwards that isn't propelled by just you care that the family's going to die or they're going to get hurt or they're going to get stabbed or blah, 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 blah. Like it has nothing to do with, there's no moral consequence or trajectory. It's just a device made to make it more intense for the viewer.
Yeah, I mean, everything, you've said seems accurate. Hanukkah's take seems accurate, except for I don't really get where's the guilt in that? What makes that bad? Where's the ethics of that? Now, clearly, it might strike one as not, might be in poor taste, I guess. But what's the ethical consideration, right? That's what I'm interested in. But I agree with the analysis as to why a thriller is different, like the investment in the characters, playing with you, and the harnessing of suspense, harnessing of the Holocaust, and the suspense to generate excitement. Those are certainly going on. But why are they ethically relevant? What's wrong with that? It's like a violent video game. What's wrong with a violent video game?
I don't know if the violent video game, I wouldn't sign on. I'm thinking about this question, but I disagree with the analogy.
Well, even like, you could even just
possible,
answer it maybe in that, like, what is wrong with Schindler's List, except that maybe it's in poor taste, or maybe it's even just cheap and maybe just kind of, bad art. Maybe you can call it
like easy,
but what is the ethical? That was gonna be my
I think
that's a good follow-up question.
Yeah, no, I think this is the question. I think like at a low bar, obviously poor taste, right? This is poor taste. This is like shameful. This is whatever, right? But to elevate it to like ethical wrongdoing, in my mind, and it seems like so far I'm a little on my own here, which I think is fair because I get root anyway. I think it has to do with like the reality of the situation. Like, it's not just harnessing people, right? Just talk about violence, right? It's not just about, well, violence is cheap and easy, and we can compensate for having a bad film by incorporating violence and using it as a lever to, get the audience to care, right? It just works, right? I mean, like, this film is evidence of that. I think that's like a super important point John made, was like, this film is like literally pointless, and the only reason you are invested or you care or you're anything, it's all just about playing the violence puppet dance, right?
Yeah, but I got pretty bored.
I'm surprised. Yeah, I was not bored when I watched it.
I was really entertained for like the first hour. Then there was a chunk of time where it was pretty boring, but then it became enjoyable again. Viscerally enjoyable.
Just saying. I think you're not just doing that with like this hollow thing, like the empty word of violence. Like, You actually create violence. You I guess do violence to the viewer. The interaction is not a vacuum. Like there is a real interaction going on between the film / creator and the audience, and like the thing created in the content has some sufficient level of quote unquote reality, like we were talking about before, such that it's not hollow. Like there's something, like you're actually creating a violence in a real sense, and I think it's about doing violence to the viewer in some way, like in order to get them to respond.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like the way you're going with that. Like sounds. I mean, I think there is some kind of critique to be made, which I don't think. I think the point is probably deeper than this, but something about like manipulating the viewer, creating suspense, like for like monetary purposes, things like this, like get viewers in the seats. But I think that's kind of shallow. But that just occurred to me. I'm not saying that's what you're saying. I think that I may not be able to define exactly what what it is that makes it ethically wrong or right. But what I can point out is something like what is the difference between like a film that we all agree is good art and great and positive, like Wings of Desire, and something like A Quiet Place 2, or just some other like cheap thriller that's made to that's very manipulative and blah blah blah. Like I don't know if the ethical claim is something like the wasting of time, or the I don't know. I think that like maybe the claim that Hanukkah's trying to make is something about the film, the type of film that one should make and one should watch, and it's like found in this gap or something between the two. Does that seem fair or accurate, or like?
I think it's a good point, but I don't think it really addresses the question of like legitimate ethics.
Yeah.
Like I think it's still like, this is what's in good taste, this is what's in bad taste, and this is what you should and shouldn't make. But I don't know if it really answers the question of like what actually has gone, like what wrongdoing has occurred.
I'm imagining the ethical, so like on the part of the director, right? The more obvious case, the creator. If they're making art that glorifies violence in an unrealistic way, uses violence in a ridiculous way that is just meant for suspense, I imagine the ethics come in from the creator's side. In the obvious case that we are manipulating people's sense of the world and what violence is, and so we are removing them from reality by doing this, and in doing so, there's going to be some rippling consequences of their voyeurism, their fetishization of certain things, their interests in certain things. They're going to be more complicit, as like commodity tools for, like they're going to be like easier revenue things, like as if they're like revenue bots for the future of like violent cinema. Like it's going to perpetuate itself, and we're going to lose some sense of like beauty in the world because people have been changed over the course of years through social engineering, basically unintentional, but just cinema influencing people, right? And that this prospect is a bad one, a bad future to look forward to, and that to me is the creator end that seems relevant and probably something I'd subscribe to, maybe not. But on the ingester side, the viewer's side, firstly, you can't know that well what a movie's going to be before you go in. I mean, like you might understand that it's a Spielberg and therefore will be a certain way, but there's clearly differences. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with the violence in Jurassic Park. Like that movie's clearly different than Schindler's List or whatever.
Yeah.
Those are both by Spielberg, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, right. So like there's clearly and obviously there's Holocaust movies which are fine in terms of great art, right? So like I don't know how the viewer can be expected to, or at least the average viewer can be expected, such that their consideration is an ethical one, for like what violent movies they subject themselves to, violent forms of art, because they're imagining a future in which should they have to care about these rippling consequences.
Isn't Troy evil for recommending this movie to us? If he is then making me watch the death of a family,
not just watch, create.
Right.
No, I think Steven's right.
That's like half a joke and like half.
Yeah.
Like,
no. I think it's it's a legitimate good point.
Well, and the point is not just Troy. It's Hanukkah. It's Hanukkah. It's not just Troy. It's like, is Hanukkah evil for making this film?
Yeah, and you could say that, well, Hanukkah is trying to show you or something like this. Like, this is because it's more of a commentary on his part.
Yeah, so it's like
Troy. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's right. But
either way, the criticism stands. But go on.
I think your point is right, and I think in particular the creator side of thing is nothing new. What this film is talking about, and what it's trying to make new, is the audience and their complicity and things like this. And I think it's not bad to like bring autonomy, right? Like the film literally urges you to stop watching, right? It's like it's trying to bring you.
Yeah, but that.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, but that's kind of evil in itself.
Hold on, I'm just saying.
You can't tell someone.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, okay.
I think the film, what it's trying to bring into the equation, where the director side is already kind of old news in a sense, is the audience and their autonomy, and like. You don't have to keep watching, I guess, might be part of the idea. I don't think that's like a super clear thing. And I'll also say real quick that I don't have a great justification for the sentence, and like it totally is for me at base. Like I think I had a unique and real sense of guilt and complicity, and like I don't have a great justification for it. And I think it's more, and I suspect it's more than just the film made me feel guilty.
Okay, that's fine. But with this point about viewership, right?
Yeah.
Like let's bring it to the Spielberg case or something like that.
Okay.
Is the viewer making an ethically charged decision by watching Schindler's List?
I think, no, not by choosing to watch it. But I think with what Funny Games would suggest or encourage is that the viewer remain aware of the fact that they are getting off on this concentration camp, or like they're like that like the audience isn't and should become aware of the fact that they are getting off on the Holocaust, and like consider that as an ethical choice.
What if one is able to both consider that? I don't know about that final point you made, like consider that an ethical choice, I guess, because now you're just now you're saying it's not an ethically charged thing, but it is something we should put on the viewer to consider as ethical.
Well, I'm not saying
like that's like kind of skirting the issue.
It's not clear to me if it's ethically charged or not. It certainly feels that way, but I'll go on the easier statement, or the easier claim to make. The lower claim would be that the audience should become aware. Isn't aware is the charge, and like the didactic would be should become aware of the fact that they're getting off on the Holocaust.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say earlier, was that it seems that the film, that the main point is, once again, the rape the audience into autonomy or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, Hanukkah says it's to make the audience member aware of their own viewership or something, and aware of how horrible the violence they're watching really is or something, and have it really like affect them.
Yeah.
Become more sensitive or something like that.
Yeah, and that seems like laudable and good. It just seems like now that I've had that thought or had that epiphany, it doesn't like preclude enjoyment from those movies. Like I could go to a horror movie and still enjoy it, even understanding this and having seen funny games. And so am I like in the wrong for doing that?
No, I don't think so.
I think
I don't know.
I think it just depends.
I don't necessarily think so. I think that it's more about like where you hold like in your own view, like I don't know. I think it's more so. It's less so. What do you choose to view, and just that like being more aware of the like your own sensitivity to these things, and when you're being manipulated is like generally a good thing or something like that. I don't know. I think there probably is like a stronger claim to be made, but I don't think that it necessarily makes it so. I mean, if you're to become more aware of your own like viewership and to have a view on like what film is better or good, you know, like you like them more, it's like why do you like them more, blah blah blah. I mean, and to like strive for, I don't know, just want for better art or something like that. I don't know. I think it's more about that and less so about like what you watch and feeling like it's less a point like someone might make about like violent video games causing violence or something like that, you know, like it's more so about your stance on art in general or something.
I want to say it's actually extremely similar to the violent video games point, but that's the director's side.
Yeah.
That's not the viewer's side. The viewer argument is not the violent video game argument necessarily, but the director's side is very similar to the argument about violence in video games, insofar as it shapes a population over time and changes us as subjects, and what things we should be conscious of or allow ourselves to change the world into.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I mean, you know, saying it like that is a lot less shallow than the way I was imagining the argument, but
no. But the viewer side, well, they're all different arguments and they're not very related. The other thing I brought up a while ago with the dog and killing it, I do still stand by that being a pertinent thing, in terms of the reality discussion. But that's not like violence as a whole. That's just but that's a different case point. What was I going to say? That, yeah, as far as what art you want to be made, I mean, I'm totally for that. Like, it'd be good for a population to be aware of the fact that what they watch encourages what gets made in the future, right? And I think that it's like basically just good to have a population understand that. But it doesn't seem like, you know, if I want to watch, you know, John Wick, like for the fun situation it is, it's not like I'm saying I don't also want great art to be made, you know, like, so I'm going to go watch John Wick and enjoy it for what it is, but I'm also interested in great art being made, you know?
Tenet for that matter.
Tenet, yeah.
Troy loved Tenet.
Love Tenet, fucking awesome. Okay, I think I might have muddied the waters a bit with like my original strong and schizo claims about the reality of
your fault.
The film and stuff, dies. Which I stand by, but I will, you know, I get that it's a bit schizo and I can't exactly defend it. You know, I believe it. I'm not gonna let, you know, it's real, but film is real reality. No, yeah, but I think it's about autonomy. I mean, we're hammering it home, but not just about what you choose to watch or what you don't, but more about remaining an independent mind and an independent viewer and like a real, you know, a viewer that is aware of the interactions going on between you and the film.
That's, I mean, on one hand, I'm with that, but on the other hand, when you watch a movie, you should immerse yourself in it and lose yourself in it to a large, you know, to a massive degree.
Yeah. So think about the way, like you do in real life, remain aware of the way reality is working upon you. So I'm not saying like you watch it and you say, oh, that's a device, that's a plot point, this is fake movie, right? It's like, no, this is real, right? Okay, forget the real thing. I don't want to go on the real thing, right? But this is what I think. This is how I try and interface with film, is I try and take it to be as real as possible, right? But remain aware in the same way you do in your own life, right? You don't like view the movie as a movie, you view it as reality and remain aware of yourself in relationship to it.
Yeah, I just don't know what that really like after watching Funny Games, for instance, if we had never mentioned Schindler's List, okay, if because we're the only ones who've ever brought that up. I mean, Hanukkah did in the past, but I mean, like, it's only through these discussions that I've even considered Schindler, right?
Yeah.
And outside of my realm of awareness, besides the podcast, besides Hanukkah, right? Like, so, blank slate. I've never heard of Schindler's List. Okay, imagine that.
Okay.
And
have you heard of the Holocaust?
I've heard of the Holocaust. A lot of people died.
Okay.
But the what was I gonna say? But my enjoyment of Schindler's List, the movie, I don't think would be significantly influenced by my having watched Funny Games. Now, maybe that's not for you two.
That's a personal failing.
I think that that quality did not come through the film and has only come through discussions about it. Now, I will say that Funny Games, made me feel terrible, and I could have picked up on some of the meta commentary, right? And some of that. But it wouldn't have like partitioned my life in such a way that it's like, here's violent Hollywood cinema before Funny Games, and here's violent cinema after it in Steven's life, Yeah. And now I'm gonna have a radically different approach to these films. Like, no, I don't think that I like gained a semblance of autonomy from it. Maybe a viewer could, but I don't think I gained that.
Yeah,
from
I was gonna say
a transferable autonomy.
I was gonna say that. Not as radical a gaining of autonomy as someone who like literally just sits at home and watches like horror movies all day and just like just dead staring at the screen, and then all of a sudden they watch Funny Games, then suddenly they're like serious about life or something like that. But I mean, because I was already watching.
But that can happen, by the way.
No,
I just want to point. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like that that happens with art. But go on.
But I was just gonna point out that for me, no, I mean, this certainly made me much more like when I had first watched it, made me much more like sensitive to the to like being, I don't know, just being aware of what I'm watching. And like, I don't know, it's made me like, after like sitting on it and stuff, like it's made me understand like certain people in my life who they go and watch films that I used to not be able to take seriously because I was thinking like, this is so funny that they really think that they can like manipulate me like this or whatever, ha ha ha. And they're like intensely disturbed by it because they take it seriously, like with like A Quiet Place 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is like, I watched A Quiet Place 2. And like, I don't know, the whole baby situation I was talking about, I was like pretty seriously disturbed by that. And I could see there being like a point in my life when I could have watched it and just been like, this is like stupid. Like, I can't believe they're trying to hold this over my head. These characters suck or something like that. But I don't know, it like bugged me. And like, I don't know if that's necessarily a consequence of watching Funny Games necessarily, but I do know that like, I know that I did become like, well, I can't point at a particular like situation or direct consequence that's like very black and white. I at least like know that like Funny Games definitely contributed to my like sensitivity or something like that, and autonomy when watching a film in general.
But Troy was mentioning before about how when you're watching Schindler's List and you do feel this engagement, like, oh my God, there was it going to be this thrill, that this is actually a problem.
Yeah.
That this is actually a cheap thrill.
think, yeah.
And
sorry,
yeah.
let me say or like be a little more particular. So like with the Quiet Place 2 thing, it wasn't so much. I mean, it's like the same thing with like Funny Games, whereas like you see that it's a manipulation and you're still disturbed by it. Whereas like with this, it was like I was like, as like Hanukkah says with the Schindler's List thing, it's like, I don't know, I felt disgusted that they were trying to do this. Like I felt gross coming out of the film, not so much because I was like, I mean, I wasn't so much relieved that the baby ended up being okay or didn't like suffocate, as much as I just felt so grossed out that I had like been subjected to that or something like that. And I think that seems to me to be the goal of funny games in some sense, is that the autonomy is to become aware that you are being like manipulated for the purpose of, it's something like getting the viewer to become aware of what the supposed ends of the creating of tension might be, and like, is this deserved? Should I be being subjected to this? Something like that. Yeah.
And I think it gets you. I think it's like revealing, and not just like points out a problem, but like points in a direction of, it's not just it's not just bad, right? There's like a redemptive possibility. I pose to you, there is one moment in the film where the audience, you, feels good. I think it only takes place once where you feel good and substantially different from the entire film surrounding this moment.
What?
When the movie was over.
No, that's so mean. I actually want like
the very
You watch the
beginning.
American version. You watch the 07 American version.
The very beginning.
Let them.
Is the very beginning? Am I right about that? Troy?
No. Why would you feel good in the beginning?
Because there's like happy family.
Whoa, it's tense. It's not even very
It's
happy.
tense from the beginning. It's like everything is super
weird.
conventional thriller genre.
Hold on, is this 07? Because like
it's all the same.
I didn't look it up.
No,
I didn't know I was watching a thriller. I saw.
No, but it's
the
still
happy
the genre.
family.
They didn't seem very happy. They're talking about what music's in it, but they're not like clapping and having fun. They're like, nope, you're wrong. It's not that.
This
Right.
will help.
Nope, it's not that song.
It'll help me make my
I can't
point
guess,
a lot better if you actually
Whatever, dude,
guess
subjective
whatever it is.
experience.
If I say what it
That
is, then
was-
it's like more manufactured, Because my argument is that it worked on you.
Troy, I don't know.
Why?
I don't know
You
when.
dumb-
Wait, what was the good
Yeah,
moment?
I don't know when the good moment
I want
was.
you. Okay, fine, but then you have to confirm.
Okay, I'll confirm.
the-
I'll be totally honest.
I'll say a guess. I mean, I felt pretty good when Yeah, I never felt good. Never mind.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, hopefully you weren't bored during this period of time. But when the mother grabs the shotgun and shoots the guy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, of
Oh,
course,
right,
right, of course.
Right. This is like
and then
the,
it's
and this
subverted,
is
right, yeah.
But this is
Right.
like
Right.
this is so
Absolutely.
big for a lot of reasons. One, it's the only time violence is seen on screen. Okay? All you ever see otherwise is the effects of violence or leading up to violence or some kind of psychological thing.
If you don't consider like binding and
Yeah. No.
walking,
Yeah, but
pressing on his leg, we see on
This
screen.
moment is extremely distinct in that you literally see a guy get totally destroyed by a shotgun, up close, blood.
Yeah, and he like
you
flies
see the
back
act
like
of
a
but it's
violence.
not the only time. It's not the only case of violence, though. I
You
just
see,
want to say.
okay,
But
yeah,
keep
binding
going on.
is
Your argument
technically
is
violent.
good.
Okay,
Just keep
right.
going on. The
So
other-
far I'm
what
on
were the
fire.
other
So
points?
far I'm on fire.
Yeah, go with the other points. What do you say?
Other points. Is that why you get so excited? Are you so right? You have this moment of triumph of
right,
yes,
and-
you feel good. Something good is happening. It's a totally distinct feeling in the film. It is not because this is the only time in the film you get to see someone actually get hurt. Like you see the action itself, right? It is because for the only time in the movie, there's a story. There's something. There's the this woman. There's some kind of redemption. She fights back. There's a fight. There's something, right? There is something other than just violence.
Just
It's the
torture.
only time.
I mean, I don't know about this story point. I do.
There's
it is-
story. There's story.
No, it
She's
clearly
gonna win.
is a
She
moment
might
of
something-
vengeance.
The story
No.
is changing.
Wait,
The
time
plot,
out.
it's not doom and gloom. Something might happen other than just violence.
I'm with you like 20% of the way or something. Like I agree. Absolutely, this. Was
I
a
am
fun
excited.
moment.
How are you not persuaded
listen.
by that?
Absolutely, it was a fun moment, and she clearly. It's a moment of vengeance, and we as the viewer who hate these two fuckers, we finally get this fun, vengeful moment, right? This revenge moment. But I'm not feeling optimistic, and I don't think that much of an. What do you mean? There's no story. This is the story that's been building the whole time. What do you mean that now there's a story? She's literally been resisting them the whole time. I don't
Yeah,
understand
but
what you
now
mean by
something has changed. I'm positing that this is the only point in the film, other than the beginning where violence is basically absent,
that. Right, where she has efficacy. She's powerful.
Where
she
just-
gets to do something.
where the way you feel isn't just a function of person, aggressor, violence. Like just the whole thriller genre, like the whole time, right? It's the lever of violence to make you feel this way, make you feel this way, and stress and suspense, and all of it is always just victim, violence doer, and what you don't want to happen is the violence, right? That is like the entire film, and this moment is distinct in my mind in that something else is taking place. You've got, okay, I get, there's a story, right? This person of oppressor, whatever, violence, that's a story, and some.
Well, it's literally a trope in every thriller that this happens.
I'm just saying something new happens. It changes direction. There's a glimmer of hope. Things might change. They might get out of it.
In a sense, nothing has changed, and in my mind, it's actually reaffirmed the trope nature of the situation. In that the feminine character, she has this moment where she stabs the villain in the back. Oh my gosh, that happens in like every slasher and thriller. And the fun part is that it's subverted, and I mean that tension had been growing the whole time. I don't know. I don't get this first moment. I mean, it is the first moment where she has power.
I'm not saying it's the first time the film steps outside of the trope. I'm saying it's the first time that you have a good moment, like something good happened.
Okay, but what is your point after that? Like I agree that it was the.
Yeah, that's my point.
That was the first point, right? That was the first line of what you said, and I agree with that.
Like
you're saying something else about the story thing.
Yes, the point.
Why is it significant?
It is significant because obviously it gets rewound, right?
Right.
And this is that much more crushing because it wouldn't be so sad if I don't know, some violence got like he, hits him in the knee and then it's rewound. You'd be like,
well, that's not a subversion. Obviously, this is why it's a subversion.
It's so devastating. It's so devastating.
I mean, it's the same as the knife scene. It's the same with the knife scene. It's like the same thing going on where you get to see the knife early on and then you see her cutting with it. Oh yeah, haha. Right.
Yeah.
But I don't see.
I'm saying what is so particularly devastating about the rewind is that you lose out on the one sort of good story moment, right? Okay, forget the word story.
Why do you keep saying story? I don't get that. Because it is a good moment, but it's in line with the whole story that's been progressed.
I'll just call it good. You get robbed of basically the first and only good moment of goodness, right? Where you feel good, right? You feel triumph, you feel whatever, right? You get robbed of the only goodness.
Yeah.
And it gets replaced with violence. And this is just to I think, draw attention to the fact that the most devastating moment for the viewer is when they lose out on the only good thing, and it draws attention to what was that good thing, and in contrast to everything else.
Violence on the screen? Is that?
Violence on the screen. So I'm just saying, it's not just, right? It'd be a different movie if things like this didn't happen. It'd be a different movie if literally it was just home invasion, and they just torture the people, and that goes on until they're dead, right?
No,
some things would remain the same, but I'm just saying that there is attention is drawn to the positive possibilities.
Yeah, I think you're right there. The thing is I think the film would remain the same thing, but to accomplish its effect much worse. As in, this was a very powerful and good subversion and awesome work, awesome to incorporate, and really hammered it home what's going on with the whole film, the whole idea. Mm-hmm. But you get rid of that and you have them continue to get tortured. It is still the same thing. It's just playing with different emotions to achieve that. This thing you're talking about, this robbing it from you or something like that is just an emotional playing with you, and not integral to the whole effect of the film, because the whole film's trying to do that in general. At every point the film's trying to do that. Yeah.
I'm saying I think this is the pinnacle, and by far the pinnacle of the audience's autonomy when watching the film. And it's doing its best to draw your attention to make you feel very strongly a certain way, immediately inject a ton of distance between you and the film such that you can reflect on, why do I feel this way? Right? It's trying to create the most autonomous moment the viewer can have in reflecting on why they feel how they do, what is going on, this type of thing. And I'm just saying that's the main thing. That this is the crescendo of audience autonomy, and this is I think the didactic, this is how one should be in some sense.
Yeah, I agree because
and I'm just pointing out that there's a positive thing too. Like it's not just don't like this is bad. Look at me, I tricked you into doing something bad. It's like when you felt the worst was when I took away the good thing, and like good is identified.
yeah, I mean, it makes the audience most aware of the film as something that can be manipulated by whoever, and that like because before you have like these fourth wall breaking moments, but the everything else continues seamlessly directly after. Whereas this, it's like even when it just reveals that the power dynamic that you have become invested in with these two guys having control over the family, that not even that is totally like the film is not bound. Its ability, it's the lengths to which like the film will go to manipulate you isn't even contingent on you believing these guys have control or something like that. That like the film is gonna continue to the film's going to continue to manipulate you regardless. So yeah, I mean it creates like this. But yeah, I agree that it's definitely significant that it happens on the only part where you're like hell yeah, and then it takes it away from you. Yeah, I mean I think that like Steven said, the film still works without it in a lot of ways. I think that this point is so I mean it is the climax of as far as the point is concerned.
Great crescendo. Yeah.
And it's trying to get like it I mean maybe it's obvious, but just to point it out, like right, it wants the audience, it puts the audience in a state of desiring autonomy quite strongly. Because right, all of this, right, the two invaders are basically the director, right, or something, right? They control the film, and they constantly tell you to your face that they're doing this for you, like this is what you want, right? Like, oh, why isn't the plot going this way? Oh, well, we need more entertainment, right? We need to hurt these people more, right? This is what you want, right, audience, right? And it's like it. Not only do you obviously not want that to happen, but like this moment puts you at the peak of that, right? It's trying to like, make you say, no, I don't want this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And draw attention to the fact that that's true.
Something like what, and like this is what frustrated me the most when I was watching it, this came clear to me most during the knife scene at the very end, and it reminded me of that famous thing that people say. It's like if you show a gun in the first act, then it better be used, or I don't know who the hell said it. And obviously, this is a subversion of that. And then Hanukkah, he constructs a fourth wall and he breaks through it and he puts his face through it and he says, "Oh, you would like this to happen, wouldn't you? Haha!" And then he throws it in the ocean. He says, "Oh, how do you feel about that, viewer?" It's like, and then I'm just like, I don't know. Would I have liked to happen? I guess. Like, what's the problem with that? What?
No, that's the good. No, my point is that's to bring attention to the fact that that's what you want is the good thing. I mean, I'm going to hit you in the face just to prove that you don't like being hit in the face.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of is the point because I think it, unlike being hit in the face, being just like getting cheap thrills from violence, like that other people just push the lever and make you feel all these sorts of ways and like trick you into like, oh, this movie's so awesome, right? But it's really just like, oh, epic plot device, baby doesn't get oxygen.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think like the shotgun and rewind, right? It's another point where you become radically more autonomous than at other times, and that autonomy takes the form of I wish this other thing would happen.
Yeah,
I wish there was this possible redemption. I wish that there was this thing, It doesn't even give you like she kind of gets the knife and hides it, and then they catch her, It's just like, oh look, thank you.
That feeling permeates the whole time, though. That feeling of wanting something else to happen, right? Like the first moment he walks into the door, the fat one, you're like, you want the situation to be handled differently, and you want the father to kick them out, and you want like something to fucking like happen such that you want them to drive away. You want when they like leave or something like
Yeah.
that, you're thinking like, why can't they just drive away and get out of here? And why is you want her to not at the boat the first time she's interacting, like you want her to like call out for help and say,
Yeah.
look, they're holding my husband
Yeah.
hostage.
Yeah.
You want, yeah. So, I mean, this whole autonomy thing, I do agree that the gunshot is a very, what you've explained so thoroughly is the,
So
is
brilliantly.
like the powerful toolkit being used. Like this was a perfect moment of this, but that this is going on the whole time, this whole autonomy thing, right?
Yeah, but what's distinct is the distance between you and the film object.
It's like the most meta moment.
Because like any film, yeah, but it places you in a type of like it's different in that like when you watch any thriller movie, you're always thinking of what you want to happen, or I hope that happens, or I'm happy that happens, right? Well,
Not in the same way with this, right?
not in the same way exactly with this, but yeah, that's my point. Is different in that the viewer is posited as being the only person who can actually do something. Like it's thrown in your face over and over again that it'll make you excited. Oh, she's trying to flag down a car. Is that the car? Is that not the car? As if it's obviously it's not the car. Obviously the car she flags down is the bad guys, you know? Like obviously she takes the knife. No, you're not getting anywhere with that. Oh, you kill it, it is different in that it is like trying to hammer there's a ton of distance between the viewer and the film, and the viewer is like reminded over and over again that they are the only person who can that can change the trajectory of this story by stopping it, I guess. I'm just saying it's distinct from other films where you might experience this feeling in that you believe in the film as like having basically good story elements where there are moments of redemption, or there's a fight, or there's a this, or there's a that.
So then would this mean like that the problem is when watching Schindler's List that you are then invested, but then you like don't know why, right?
Yeah, the analogy or like the comparison would be the shotgun moment and the shower moment. Whereas in the shotgun moment, right, you are at peak autonomy and self-awareness as to what is going on in the film, why you feel the way you do, what you desire and what you don't desire. Whereas I think the Schindler's List would be you should feel the same way when watching the Schindler's List, when I think the accusation is that the audience doesn't. The audience is just captivated or captive to like the things being done, the work being done on them.
And that's the problem.
No. So look, on the one hand, obviously it's a very awesome idea, but if we want to think about like if you're watching a film and you don't like where it's headed, you're a little fucker if you pause the movie and like walk away and never watch it again. Like if that's obviously an evil thing to do, right?
Yeah.
And I say evil loosely, but
Yeah.
but that's what is that the prescriptive thing? Like that's not good.
No, I think it's just awareness.
The viewer doesn't have autonomy in that way. Like one should feel obligated to watch the film regardless of how bad it is or like where it's going, I think. In terms of giving themselves up to the film and the art. So like
With your exception.
so like you saying you're saving people like by not watching the film.
Different point,
like
but yeah.
that to me no. So like that to me is like should one like another way you could have saved them is just like skipping around, which is what you did, right? But these like fundamentally ruin the film, like
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm totally on board with this. I don't think the prescription is to not watch something. I think this is a separate point that I want it. Like,
well, what is the autonomy? What is autonomy? And
if you're not thinking, the autonomy is of a mind.
Time out. A different thing. No, but when you're watching a movie, you don't want autonomy, no matter what, because this autonomy is totally fake. Like the whole point of watching the movie is to subject yourself captive to a screen and to whatever. You can be as aware of things as you want, But if you're sitting there, having conscious thoughts about the movie, too many of them, you're clearly going to be like detached from the movie and not feeling it a certain way, right?
If you think about it in terms of a movie and not reality. Because I think you can come to the table the same way you do with your actual life.
I don't know how that's pertinent right now. I don't get what you're saying, because if I'm watching Schindler's List, and I'm thinking about the ways in which it's manipulating me, I'm doing a disservice to Schindler's List. I'm supposed to let it manipulate me and then assess after the fact that it was a problem for these reasons. But during that whole process, I was captive to the screen, and I think that's fine and that's good. Yeah,
I'm saying when you say if I think about how Schindler's List is manipulating me, you're doing a disservice to Schindler's List. I think that's right? Because the idea is like you're thinking about the methods and devices of the director in the film, right? Whereas imagine, you're in some, I don't know, crazy interpersonal situation in real life, right? You both are affected by the situation and are simultaneously like understanding the situation and the way you're interacting with it, right?
Say that again. What are you saying?
You have some interpersonal real life situation that is emotional, say, right?
Yeah.
You're there, she's breaking up with you, right?
Yeah.
You're felt, right? You have given yourself to the situation because it's literally reality, right?
Yeah.
You're in it. But you also understand it. You understand why what's happening is making you feel the way it is, and you understand the nature of the situation, the dynamics and all this stuff, right?
I mean, what do we mean by understanding? I mean, you're feeling lots of things, but
you're feeling and you're thinking and you understand.
You probably don't know why you're feeling a certain way. No, I think
you totally do.
Probably not.
You totally do.
What do you mean by why? Like, how much of why? What do you mean?
Well, just from what you can see and what you're experiencing. She's breaking up with me. Oh my God, this is, blah, blah. I mean, it's not all verbal.
Okay, if it's to that extent, that's fine. But that's different than like understanding why I feel bad or something like that. I don't know. The word understand. Sorry, I was getting bogged down in language. What do you?
Well, yeah, understand is gonna be a loose term.
Yeah.
Wait, is it? But you want me to tighten it or something?
No.
Or just talk about it?
I think I get what you mean. You're in a situation.
Yeah.
It's emotionally charged. You're living it.
Yes.
Right. And your whole life experience is coming into play in terms of how you're interacting with this moment.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. You understand
all the
things about the
movies
moment.
you've seen before are also influencing you when you're watching Schindler's List. Like, even if you're not consciously aware, you can be influenced by these other things in the past, and so when you're in the moment of Schindler's List, no, I still don't get the.
I'm saying what you should bring to the table is the same you bring to real life.
Oh,
like
wait, but
I'm saying when you're in, I'm saying you are self-aware of the way you are interacting with reality when you're interacting with reality. Right? You understand. It's not like you're like psychoanalyzing the situation or verbalizing everything that's going on. But I'm saying like you understand your relationship to the situation. You this type of thing, right? But I'm saying, but when you watch a film, it's different, right? You're like in order to try and do that same thing, one might think about Schindler's List, the film, the director is manipulating me by presenting me with this stimuli and blah 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 blah.
Right.
And this
you
is
don't
not,
want that.
But this is something you would never do in real life, right? Because it's real.
Right.
I'm saying both personally and perhaps with the this type of autonomy is you should bring this to the film. You should interact with the film as if it were reality. And bring that autonomy with you.
No, but I don't know about this autonomy thing.
Autonomy as in just really understanding yourself in relationship to the object. No.
So like when I'm interacting, like the breakup situation, most things in real life, you actually have some level of autonomy. In a film situation, you're literally captive.
I mean, cognitive autonomy.
I don't really know what you mean by that. If we're not, and if it's not entering the level of the conscious, I don't understand what you mean by autonomy. Because to me, if it's not entering the realm of the conscious, which is what you don't want, that would be like analyzing the film in a very particular kind of way we don't like. Like, if it's not entering the realm of the conscious, then it's in the unconscious. If it's in the unconscious, like you're not in control of that. You're just a plaything for it, right?
No, it can be in the conscious. It's thought of not as the film, but as reality. And like I had such a good thing to say and I just forgot it. Oh, that sucks. It was like the crux. I don't know if it was the crux, but it was in response to what you just said. Autonomy. Where's the autonomy? Cognitive autonomy. The opposite of like the real life analogy to a lack of autonomy would be like getting scared, you know? Like a jump scare or something. You know, maybe this is not thought out well enough, but in most situations, you understand both the situation and yourself and the interactions between it, right? And I'm not saying I think in real life, right, it's a lot of unconscious, it's a lot of conscious, right? It's both these things. And I'm saying one can bring that to the film, but not if when you think about the stimuli, you think about it in terms of the choices someone else has made.
What do you mean? What's the last statement mean?
I'm saying like when you interact with some real life situation, right, you understand yourself, the situation, and how both are interacting and making you feel, etc., right? But you don't think that there is a third layer of ultimate control, right? Like a director, right? You don't say like God, you don't say, I noticed that God has made this woman break up with me and it's making me feel bad, you know? Because that would make it seem superficial. It's like, no, this girl's breaking up with you, right? I'm saying you should approach film the same way, not like you don't think about the film as the object, but the film as reality, and you just understand yourself in relationship to it and like the interactions. So you'd say, oh, this is so terrible, like this Holocaust is giving me thrills, you know? Like this is how I'm feeling. And I think just maybe this isn't like a point so much to you as maybe like Hanukkah's conception of like the general American audience, but
I thought that was bad.
No,
I thought the viewer was supposed to be aware.
The viewer is aware. That's what I'm saying. The viewer ought to be aware.
Be aware of how they're being manipulated. But then you're saying like, oh, you should be treating it as if you're super in it and it's actually happening.
Yeah, when things are actually happening, you're aware of how it's interacting with you.
No, but you're not aware of like how you're being manipulated.
No,
manipulate. Yeah, God is using.
Yeah, manipulated. Yeah, the problem with the word manipulated, I suppose, in this case, is that it supposes like an author or a manipulator.
Mm-hmm.
So you would just say reality. How reality is, influencing you. How about that? Influence.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure. Like I said, after watching Funny Games and after watching, lots of Hanukkah's works now, if I go watch Schindler's List or some other film, I mean, and just talking about it, these conversations, mostly the conversations surrounding it rather than the films themselves, but maybe I could have gleaned them from the films themselves if I, didn't have conversations with them. But like, it'll enter like conscious awareness, I suppose, like literally conscious awareness. As I'm watching a film, some big budget film, I'll literally think about our conversation about Hanukkah, right? I don't know if that's good necessarily, but I think it'll probably happen. If I ever go watch another horror film, I'm probably going to think about the fact that we've had these conversations. I don't know. And then like, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I still don't really know the point. I don't know. I don't know to disagree with it or not. I don't know. I do think what Hanukkah's message is in general is worth considering and is valuable. Like I do think that. I just don't know about any of the things that come after that, about the how to be autonomous as a viewer and things like that. That's all.
So, and to make one thing clear to all those listening, I would never suggest that you bring anything other than your all to a movie. Give yourself to it. Because it's literally real. Yeah, we're kind of close to the time mark. It's a shame. I think we should give some lip service, not just to like the based ideas but to how, like, I don't, in my mind, how really well done the movie is, how incredible the performances are. That's for the 97 crowd.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't.
I'm
I'm a little bummed we didn't.
I think the performances are good in the 2007, and I
They are
really
quite
like
good. They are quite
and
good.
I like the mother in
Naomi
the
Watts,
2007
baby.
version. Naomi Watts, she was very beautiful. She looked exactly like
Listen.
the trad Wojak woman.
Yeah, she's very
You know?
different. The wife is very different in the
Very
film.
different. I just noticed
Listen, I while I am glad that we did discuss kind of what the film was made to have the viewer discuss, I am a little bummed we didn't get to talk about, like, oh my god, when this happened, that was crazy, and it did this and this, and I loved how this looked, and blah blah blah, because that stuff is all, like, I don't know, it's so the film, like, what I find remarkable about the film is that it can convince me of the one thing that I find remarkable is not just the argument that it's making, but that it can convince me of it because it's so well made, and, like, there's particular shots and moments and things, and like I said, like, the last shot I find, like, pretty horrifying in a really unique way, and I feel like there's tons of stuff like that I don't know, I would have liked to talk about more, but
Well,
Yeah, the German
That's
actress's
actually-
acting was crazy good.
So
Like,
good.
God tier.
The,
That was so good.
I mean, on a little bit about, like, because there was so much of a meta or narrative within it, that it actually did distance me so much from my emotions. And you can say, hey, 2007, very funny, which is why I should have before this podcast just watched the 97 version just to silence all claims. But like, I just kept, like, I just kept rolling my eyes, like, okay, right, I get it, Hanukkah, I see what you're going with this, right? This is about the film, this is about entertainment, this is about whatever, and and there was so much heavy-handed symbolism that he's putting through. It was like, it really made it so disengaging. It was sort of like, all right, it almost felt like he was, like, trying to talk to me and, like, tell me, like, give me a lecture about entertainment, and I wasn't really having it.
Two things. To John, I don't know, man. I feel like more often with this podcast, I'm disappointed that we didn't get into the meat and potatoes, and it was too much like, oh, that was awesome. Yeah, that was awesome.
Well,
and, like, I feel like we never actually get to what is going on.
No. This is not what
But I
I'm
agree.
saying.
I think I agree with your point about what is particularly impressive about this film is its persuasiveness, is its, like, its emotional power.
Yeah.
That, like, really is, like, the thrust of the argument, or serves as, like, a crux to the argument.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, that's not to say, like, the way I worded it was bad, but, like, I don't know, I think about, like, our talk about Amore, as well as, like, Dogville or Piano Teacher. Like, we still talked about particular, like, I don't know, in this we didn't talk about very many scenes.
Basically, just talked about the shotgun.
We just talked about the
scene.
shotgun scene. It was the only
Basically,
scene that we
yeah.
brought up, and then that. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, there like, we watched a film and we didn't watch the essay describing the film. Like, I don't know. Which not. I'm saying, like, I'm not saying that any of this discussion that we've had has been bad. Just I don't know, when it comes to, like, film analysis, I'm interested in, like, how it's constructed, not just on this, like, not just what they meant, but, like, how it's actually constructed, you know?
Do you think talking about the prayer scene really quick would be fruitful?
What scene?
The prayer
Do we
scene.
even have time? I mean,
I want to note that it's 2 hours and 10 minutes.
It might be a bit
2:10.
much for how much time.
I don't really even have a take about it unless
I
you
don't
do.
have a particularly compelling take other than, like,
it's crazy.
director as God.
Okay, I wanted to say, broadly speaking, in our defense, the movie not much happens in the movie. This is to Troy's claim about the story. There really aren't.
Yeah.
Like, we could talk about maybe, like, there's a total of, like, 6 standout scenes, and then the rest are just kind of like the cruel tension you feel in between all of them and the things that get talked about, and the ideas and things like that. But really, there aren't, like, and I say 6 as a rough estimate, like, there's really very few scenes in the film.
Yeah, that's
all.
fair. I think there's something to be said about like, I mean, if we're gonna talk about like where, like how we did with the shotgun thing or whatever, we talked about that as being the different one.
Yeah.
While the other things we kind of said like, oh, it's just a string of all the same thing. I don't think that they're all the same thing. I think a lot of them serve very particular. I mean, they all serve very particular tropes and have different weights of like how like hopefulness or whatever. I don't know. I think that the egg scene is hugely significant. I feel because it's before any violence has happened, and I feel like it's like still so horribly uncomfortable. And like
absolutely,
and the long take.
I think that's true.
The long take, the couple sort of coming together in that moment, and all that stuff.
I just want to say, like, on the prayer scene, which is the only thing I really found was notable, which is that they only know they only know very small little
prayers.
What's the word? Platitudes, like prayers and things, and the villains oftentimes speak in little platitudes. They say all the sort of cliche things that you might say, where like, oh, it's important to keep your manners. It's don't get the carpet dirty. It's very typical things that are all sort of based around like politeness and image of how it is that they are perceived by on a very surface level. And so they know these very surface level, very plain, very kind of lame prayers, but ultimately short and clearly lost on any of the thing that they actually have internally going on. So there you go.
All right. I feel bad for not responding, but
that's fine. We gotta wrap it up, right? I mean, I don't know.
All right. Concluding thoughts. I really like this movie. I do think, to John's point, we did a disservice. I think to some degree, the nature of the conversation reflects the film, and that it's very idea laden. But there is a lot of things that, like, when I'm thinking about a score, and I want to place it, in the world cinema stage, why I'm going to give it such a great score is going to have to do mostly with the nature of the film itself and not necessarily the idea it puts forth. I'm going with a 4.0.
I don't know about whatever. The idea put forth is like the reason you're enjoying the film and the way it's affecting you is even pre-linguistically like tied to the idea, right?
No, the idea is inseparable. I'm just saying, like, the idea would be nothing without the craft and the uniqueness of the film.
Yeah,
and like,
that's true.
Like, I don't think I could do this. Like, it's incredible in its persuasiveness of the idea, and the idea is good, and it's all intertwined.
Yeah.
So I'll go 4.0, which makes me, because I don't know if it's as good as like some big time hitters we've seen. But there's something must-watch about it, and not out of some, like, the world needs to know this idea. Like, I think it is extremely well executed. So that's me.
I think, the 4.0 being the threshold for must-watch, I'm not sure if I've really been consistent on that at all, but trying to think if it meets that mark. No, I'd give it a 3.6. But it's unfortunate because I do think the idea is worth knowing, So I don't like, I'm speaking more viscerally to the emotion and the effect that I had on me, with the score. It seems unrealistic to give it a must-watch unless I'm considering the idea nature of it.
Well, how is
the conversation it evokes?
It's intertwined with the idea, no?
No, I think a lot of people won't actually like. It's the conversation I've had and thought about it. I think a lot of people should know this idea and not even watch the film, in general. Like, that's totally fine. If I could pick for a random fucker that is only watching shit films, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, if I could pick that they either watch this movie by themselves or that they have this idea under their toolkit, I would want them to have the idea.
Yeah, but this
under
is
their
just
toolkit.
you just don't believe in the average viewer, or it sounds like you're supposing
Yeah.
someone.
I mean, why would they?
Yeah,
why would
yeah.
they watch this instead of read what's that book? Save the Cat. You know what I'm referring to? That's How to Write Screenplays book.
no.
Oh, okay.
No.
It's
I think
pretty-
I've heard
it's
of
pretty
this,
famous. It's a pretty famous
No,
one.
no, I don't know, but I think my point stands.
I'm surprised by this.
I think it's a useful point. I think that the movie wasn't like I didn't turbo enjoy it. I
Not
thought
by
it
the
was
score,
pretty-
the viewer.
pretty good.
The this thing about the viewer, like that the score has something to do with like an actual
No,
recommendation.
no. I'm saying it doesn't. Well, you say must watch quality. What do you mean by must watch?
For myself.
Okay, then it certainly misses that for me.
Okay.
But which is why I gave
Wait,
it
no,
under.
whatever
which
gives
is
you
why
the
I gave
highest
it
score.
under.
Whatever makes you the highest.
What did I say? 3.7? Did I say 3.7?
Yeah, you're on 3.6.
Yeah, 3.6.
All right. I'm
That's
just gonna
totally fair.
That's
and
fair.
I stand by that. Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrogating you. I'm gonna email the actress and say that you were giving her performance a 3.6, but
Dude, no, her performance is a 6.
Just say.
Her performance was so good. I
all right.
thought.
I'm sorry for interfering
No,
in
you're
your
good.
scoring.
You're good.
My turn or
Brody?
John.
No, Brody
Okay.
should go.
Oh, I should go.
We don't want to end on a sad note.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
Because I'm giving this a 2.0. I don't like meta-analysis. I don't like stories about stories. I think his point was, I think his point was obvious, and after it I was so filled with rage. But I couldn't talk about it because I had to save it, and it was a good thing I slept before doing this podcast, because otherwise I would have gone crazy and spurged out.
I want to. Sorry.
But after the film, I was so filled with rage, I just took to a text notepad and just wrote for like 30 minutes about how much I hated Hanukkah.
Just think about the piano teacher. Just
I'm sorry,
But
John.
obviously, hold on.
Sorry,
But
yeah.
obviously, it's not a bad film. It's just it really did. It really no. Hold on. I'm giving you my personal experience, right? Like, obviously, it's not bad. Obviously, the ideas are something to be contended with. But it just caught me at a wrong time, you know. I just at this point in my life, I'd rather read a fable or something, you know, just something more about the human experience, something like Stoner, where it isn't about what stories are, or how entertainment affects you, or something like this.
I want to say that I think Brody's score would probably be way higher if we had not watched lots of other Hanukkah movies and
Yes.
talked about it so much.
Yes,
I think
you're
100%.
absolutely correct.
I think
I
JJ
completely agree.
Yeah, I think. But one thing I think is unfortunate is I actually think none of the movies have actually articulated this idea in the way that this movie articulated it, and that we've always been talking.
The idea the idea that has surrounded this podcast primarily, yes, but there are some other.
Any concept of art and Spielberg and Schindler's List, I think, has been very like loosely ever mentioned or like mattered much in the films, whereas in this one it's literally the whole film.
Except that what I really dislike is this whole Hanukkah stuff about, well, he is showing you reality, right? And then obviously it's like, okay, well, here's this whole thing. It's like, well, are all films reality? Is fiction reality? Blah, blah, blah. But it's like, well, he's trying to, strip it away. He's raw, man. It's like, no, I don't care.
not surprising coming from just a movie type of guy. Yeah, I wish we should
Sorry,
have kept it a secret somehow that this was a Hanukkah film. You would have loved it.
Yeah, it would have been. Just even by the way it was
It's
shot, it was ridiculous. Because it was so clearly Hanukkah. Because I didn't
It's
know
so
until
good.
I was already watching it. I didn't, like I said, I didn't look it up, right? Like I would just start watching it, and I'm like, wait a second, like this looks like a Hanukkah shot, right? And then lo and behold,
I like this movie. I I like to watch it like for reals again, because I kind of half-assed it this time. But yeah, I mean, I see it as being extremely unique and so extreme in the way that it I don't know. It's just like I feel like there's lots of movies that like try to be super heady and conceptual in this, and like they can sell you on the like analytic part of what they're doing, you know. Um, like after the fact, which I think I felt kind of that way somewhat with certain Hanukkah films, but with this one, it's like I feel like, especially the first time I watched it, I was just so convinced of the kind of emotional realness of it, and like I was super moved and felt. I mean, yeah, the violence is just so horrible and it felt so uncomfortable. Blah 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 blah. And then like when you have these meta moments and the breaking the fourth wall, I was like pretty intensely disturbed. I think overall, I'd probably give it. Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably agree with Troy and give it something like a 4. Yeah, good film.
0.0?
Yeah, 4.0. Yeah, good film. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I want to show this to people, like certain people, because I feel like it would do a better job of convincing them of like how, I don't know. I feel like just because my emotional experience when watching this film was so intense, especially the first time, I find it hard to believe it's like this and like a couple Trier films that I feel like would be like what I want to show people who I'm trying to convince. Like, look how badly this can like fuck you up, you know. And then they can like take movies more seriously or something. Yeah, I don't know.
Fantastic.
Just to be clear, Troy accused me of being just a movie kind of guy. This is very not true. I respect all forms of storytelling very much.
It's just a story kind of guy.
No,
Just a fable
because
I'm a it's
no,
literally
because
real kind of guy.
Because stories are extremely important.
It's just literally real kind of guy.
No, yeah, John. I mean, a perfect, great marriage of idea and feeling. If only there were a perfect film that's done that, like House that Jack Built or something. I don't know. And then also, I'm so sad about this Hanukkah. The way this Hanukkah things go, we're never gonna get to Cachet or White Ribbon.
I mean, yeah, I don't think I would prefer if we watch something else.
No, I'm not saying we should do it immediately. I'm just saying.
I wanna watch.
I worry for our future.
I don't think Trier.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the only anti-Hanukkah guy here.
That's true,
right?
but
and I am outnumbered.
Yeah,
I think
everyone's important.
And I think the only reason Brody's anti-Hanukkah is because we've talked about the idea. The one big problem is we've only had like 2 ideas associated with Hanukkah, like 2 distinct ideas, and we've talked about them in every Hanukkah film except for Piano Teacher, because that one was more like about I brought I don't know. We talked about a couple other things, but and then and Amor we didn't really. I mean, we even then in Amor we talked about this. But this is the one that actually talked about it. This is the one that the idea actually mattered. Yeah. So one problem is that we've conversed about this idea, and so now it just feels stale, or something like that. When it sucks because that's this movie did it so well.
Yeah, we should have started here, huh? Maybe not.
Where
did we start?
We should have not Piano Teacher.
That's a good choice.
We should have not talked about this subject except for when it really felt pertinent.
Yeah, but we didn't know.
Instead of like shoehorning Hanukkah's, like some blurb we've read about Hanukkah saying something or other in every Hanukkah episode. I don't know. It's created this like distorted version of Hanukkah philosophy or something like that.
Well, we're at 2:30. Longest episode ever.
Oh no.
It's a boring one too.
Epic and base. No, this is a pretty exciting episode. I think I'd like to listen to this one.
No jokes. Where's the jokes?
That's true. This wasn't very funny.
I would have preferred.
We need to watch a stupid movie. Those are the funny episodes.
Someone say a joke.
Somebody give us a joke.
I made a joke already. I already made my joke.
Oh,
I made my joke right at the beginning.
That's tough.
No, you heard it. You laughed.
Did I laugh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you'll
you'll
hear
hear
it
it
again.
again when you when
My
you
Yeah,
one
you'll
joke.
hear it again.
All right,
one
nobody's
joke.
gonna say anything
Okay.
funny, so we should sign off.
Poo poo.
Oh my god. Bye bye.
Poopy stinky.
Bye.
Bye.